live. Oh, we're preparing live stream. And we are on live now. It says meeting is now live streaming on YouTube. So hello. It's Joy Foster, founder of TechPixies. And we are live on YouTube. Obviously, crazy day. We're filming this on the 4th of October, 2021. Facebook is down. Instagram is down. And WhatsApp.
We're preparing live.
It's down. But YouTube is not down. And so we are still going. And I'm going to let Elliott tell his story to you and get the ball rolling while I let people know that we are live on YouTube instead of on Facebook. But I really want to thank you, Elliott, for being here tonight. As you may or may not know, TechPixies helps women upskill with social media in order to return to work, change careers, or start a business. But we have a very large element of life coaching and neurocoaching as part of that. And you have an incredible history in terms of your dedication to helping people transform and also helping people get through trauma. So I want to thank you first and foremost for being here. But second of all, I'd love for you to tell your story.
Cool. Well, first of all, thank you for being here, Joy. It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to say whatever it is I could say that would possibly help women be motivated, encouraged, inspired, all of the things. So what part of my story do you want to know? Happy to share anything.
Well, I specifically want to talk about a couple of things. There's a lot of things I want to talk about. One, we're in the middle of a big YouTube series. So we've just launched our YouTube modules. So you have a YouTube channel. You've been building up YouTube video views for a long time. So I want to talk a little bit about that because you're also in the YouTube series. But I do want to talk about the difference between life coaching and, let's say, neurocoaching, and also when you're coaching someone through trauma. And I think you're in the middle of learning how to tell your story on a different level, right? Because up until now, you've been talking to a very specific group of people and you're shifting your messaging as well to a new group of people. So let's talk about, we can go any direction, whichever one you feel the most comfortable starting with, but whether that's, getting your YouTube channel off the ground and growing the subscription and reaching more people, or if we want to go down the road of the different types of ways that you can deal with life coaching elements or neurocoaching elements or trauma.
So, okay. So I'll probably tackle like all of it all at once. I'll start with the difference between like life coaching, like neurocoaching. And for me, I don't know that I see a difference. So I am a licensed counselor and I'm a psychotherapist by trade as a consequence. And I don't know that I see a difference between like life coaching and psychotherapy and anything else. I think our job is to make sure that the people that we talk to leave the conversations that we have better for having had the conversations with us. So as I've grown and evolved just as a person, I think I see that responsibility more than just my responsibility as a professional. I think that's my responsibility in life. So everybody that I meet, I hope that they're better for having met me, and I hope they're better for having spent time in conversation with me. So what I do as a psychotherapist, there's a very specific way in which I do that. But I truly walk through this world with the mindset of I hope everybody is a little bit better for having met me. And I think we get ourselves into trouble a little bit by thinking about what's different about this role versus that role versus this role, instead of just being like genuinely good, kind people. I think we should just work harder to be good, kind people. So I don't know that I see a difference necessarily. I find focusing on differences to be a distraction from the what I think is more important, what's similar. And in my head, the most similar thing is we have to work to be really good people to one another. And when we do that, life becomes so much more grand.
I agree with you. I think it's really important, to look for the similarities. I think one of the things that I have experienced as a neurocoach who kind of, skipped the life coaching element really and went straight into the neurocoaching when I got certified, was that sometimes life coaches and neurocoaches, when they see someone who's had trauma, or they can tell that there's something quite major that's happened in their life, sometimes it feels like it's deeper than what life coaching and what neurocoaching can deal with. And I think that's where I do think sometimes you might be speaking to someone, you might think, actually, this is deeper than what I can, the tools I can give you will help you move forwards, but it's not going to necessarily help you work backwards. And I think that sometimes when someone's come through something traumatic, there's a lot to deal with from the past. Is that not, you don't see that as an issue?
No, I don't. I mean, there are, according to research, 7 out of 10 people have experienced a trauma. And some people, I mean, sure, Joy, some people do need or would experience help with a more intense, deeper experience with a professional. But that's not because they've had a trauma, because that would mean 7 out of 10 people wouldn't be able to experience psychotherapy, life coaching, neurocoaching, because they would need, and that's not true. We know that's not true. Some people might need a deeper experience, but that's just because they need a deeper experience. It's not because they have a trauma. Trauma is an incredibly common thing. In fact, I can argue we now have a unified global trauma as a consequence of COVID. So that means everyone has had a trauma. So that means, Joy, no one can experience neurocoaching because all of us have had a trauma. That doesn't make sense.
But you make a good point there. And I think it's great. I mean, I see neurocoaching work for a majority of the people that use it. You see people who work with you, and it works with the majority of people that you work with. So talk about your methods and how you help people. But I do know that one of your specialties is working with people and helping them through trauma. So
that's right.
Let's talk about that.
I do something called solution-focused brief therapy. And the difference between, I'll be super quick. The difference between solution-focused brief therapy and traditional psychotherapy is solution-focused brief therapy is focused on what your client is hoping to achieve. In essence, where people are going as opposed to where they've been. And people have often said, like, solution-focused brief therapy, it doesn't work with people who've had serious trauma, or it doesn't work with people who had significant life issues. The number one thing that can help people in a difficult situation, regardless of the difficult situation, is hope. Like I'm going to say something, Joy, and I hope this doesn't offend you, but I don't think the primary thing you do in your business is teach women how to run businesses using social media. I think what you do more than anything else is giving women who are oftentimes stuck hope. Because, like, if I am, and I don't mean to be like, women are stuck or anything, but I just mean the social expectations on a woman is different than the social expectations on a man. And for many, many years, as I work with families, there have been lots of women who came into my office and said, I really am not happy in this marriage. My husband is a jerk, in some cases abusive, but I can't leave because I have no money. Like, that has happened to me as a professional. I've heard that story a lot because the woman is like I stay at home with the kids role, and the husband goes out and is somehow inappropriately controlling, and in some cases inappropriately abusive with the woman. And then they come to me and they say, I want to leave, but I can't. So I have to stay in this horrible situation until my 8-year-old child is an adult. So I'm looking at 10 years until my 8-year-old child is 18, and then I can start making some money, and then I can leave. The cool thing about TechPixies is that mom can now start building her business in her own home now. She can start using social media platforms, building her business now. And that completely changes her life. Not because social media is awesome, not because Joy is awesome, and not because TechPixies is awesome. All three of those things may very well be awesome. But the reason that woman's life gets changed is she immediately has hope. She has hope that I can do something now to create a new future for myself, for my family, for my children, for my whatever. And that will change their experience with trauma. It'll change their experience with difficult situations in the past. Like, it genuinely creates change. Like, the greatest thing to affect change is hope. And in solution-focused brief therapy, I think that's what we're doing, is we're using hope language to help people experience change.
Yeah, I 100%. I know that story so well. That is, I've had that conversation with a few people, and obviously there's lots of different forms of abuse. There's physical abuse, there's emotional abuse, there's financial emotional abuse. There's a whole mix of things. But you're right. There are many, many women who are trapped because they have no financial independence, and actually, that's one of the things that I stand for is, financial independence for women. I even have on my computer, champion of financial independence for women as a star, as one of my missions, because that's exactly why it's so, so important for women to not feel trapped and to be able to get out of a situation that's not working for them.
Yes.
And I love what you talk about with the solutions-based focus. How did you end up getting into this line of work, and how, what's your personal story that got you here?
So I have a very, I used to describe my childhood as I have a very bad childhood experience, whatever. And I don't think about that. I don't think about it like that anymore. I mean, I had the childhood that I had, and the childhood that I had gave me some very significant life lessons. And I had a really abusive father. I had a mom who loved me, but she was doing the best that she could, given that she had a really abusive husband who was being an abusive father. And I learned that life isn't always fun or easy. And I carried scars into my adulthood. I was sad, I was depressed, I was anxious, I was suicidal at times. And I mean, like, significantly suicidal. I mean, like bad. I really, really dark place throughout my childhood. And I decided, and here's the one thing, like, people listening, if you can figure out a way to give your pain purpose, it is no longer pain. Like, once you give pain purpose, it instantaneously turns into passion. So I had a pain, and I thought, I want to help people not feel like this. So I went to graduate school to become a psychotherapist. And I got really pissed off because in graduate school, they just teach you how to talk to people about their problems. But that's actually not a useful way to affect change. Like, for example, if I gained a bunch of weight, it's not useful to talk to me about how I gained weight. Or if I'm a chef and I burn a bunch of meals, it's not useful to talk to me about how I burn those meals. I have a history of athletics. I know, Joy, you do too. If I only talk to you about my athletic failures, I'm probably not going to become a better athlete. Well, the same thing is true with mental health. If I only talk to you about how horrible of a father I had, if I only talk to you about the difficult evenings that I had to survive, if I only talk to you about my bad days, that's not really the most efficient way. That's not really the most efficient way to create change. So in graduate school, I just thought, like, I'm wasting my time here because I'm just learning how to talk to people about problems. And I had a real problem in my life. And I'm like, I don't want to talk to people about this. I want to figure out, I mean, in essence, don't have a conversation with me about how I got lost. Have a conversation with me about the actual process of getting found. And somehow, man, I was studying one day and I picked up this book, and there were 2 pages dedicated to solution-focused brief therapy. And it made sense to me. Like, I was like, holy cow, like, this made sense to me. Those of you who never studied psychotherapy probably don't know, there's like 200 theories that guide how we do psychotherapy. And I was finally reading about one that just made absolute total sense to me, because you talk to people about evocation of their best self, and you talk to people about how to figure out where they're going, and you talk to people about how to find their best traits even when life has been difficult with them. I mean, you talk to people about that part of them, and it just, like, lit me on fire. Like, I wanted to do it, I wanted to write about it, I wanted to teach it. And then somehow I've traveled around the world teaching this. I've been in like 30 countries. I've been to every continent. I've written 4 books. I've written research articles, the whole nine, because I wanted to make sure people in the field knew exactly what this approach was and how we utilize it.
Well, you're right. And from a sports background, actually, like you said, there's studies that have shown that if a coach shows the athletes the things that they did wrong, they will not perform as well as when a coach shows them what they did well, and then reiterates what they did well. And then the other thing is that, you can use the mind to improve your performance. I think there was a study with bowling done where they had bowlers and they thought about strategy and didn't actually bowl. And then they had bowlers who were shown the mistakes they were making. Then they had bowlers who were shown what they were doing well. And when the three groups went up against each other, it was the one that had been shown what they were doing well over and over again that got better. So, and I'm in the middle of reading Mel Robbins' new book, The High Five Habit, and she talks a lot about the significance of, we associate giving a high five to other people to keep them motivated, to keep them going, to tell them they're doing a good job. So this act of then giving yourself a high five in the mirror is that you are doing that positive reinforcement for yourself instead of their usual, oh, I've got bags under my eyes, or, I don't like the way my hair looks, or whatever. I find it really fascinating how important it is to focus on what's going well. And I also find it fascinating how many people have such a hard time doing that. And I know how hard that is, because when I first started, making the shift to this way of thinking, I found it really difficult to think about what I did well every day and to start doing daily wins and weekly wins. Those things are incredibly important. And if you don't make a habit of looking at the accomplishments you've made on a regular basis, you miss them entirely, and you spend your whole life trying to achieve something that's nowhere near you. Whereas if you are seeing the accomplishments and the achievements every single day as you're moving towards it, you start to make a lot more progress. And I really wish I had known that type of mental training when I was an athlete, because I never celebrated. I was always frustrated, and I didn't understand the difference of those two. And it is huge, isn't it?
100%. Like I feel quite lucky because my life's experience broke that. Thinking about what's going wrong literally almost killed me. So like when I was 19, I decided, like I remember laying in my dorm room in college, I decided I'm going to focus on the good things in life because they're all there. I just wasn't noticing them because my life was such shit. And it's funny because then 10 years later, I started doing this thing called solution-focused therapy. But at the time, I was just trying to live because focusing on everything that had gone wrong almost killed me. So I thought, I'm just going to like enjoy that today I can go to the cafeteria and eat any food I want. Like I literally like was thinking about small things like that like I can walk to that cafeteria, and everybody else in the school was complaining about the food. And I was like, I can have as much food as I want. And there are a lot of people on the planet for whom that is not true. So today, as a 19-year-old on this college campus, I can walk into that cafeteria and I can eat as much food as I want, and I can drink as much beverage as I want. This is a new thing. I'm going to celebrate this. Like that was like my brain at the time was like, find things to be happy about or you might die.
Wow, that's so powerful. But I think we just don't do it naturally. It's not something we do naturally. So we have to but something that you said that I think is so important. I just finished reading The Power of Decision, and something you said that you made the decision.
I did.
Yeah. And I don't think people realize how important that step. You have to make the decision. And then it's from that decision that things start to fall in place. But so many people don't make that decision. They have a hard time coming to that place where they say, this is what I've decided. I've decided my company is going to have a profit. I've decided my company is going to serve 1 million people. Whatever you decide, it's about making that decision. I decide I'm going to like my life, and I'm going to decide I'm going to be happy. I'm going to decide that I deserve happiness. That's very difficult for people to do.
That's true. And in fact, like a lot of people don't even know that they should be doing it. Like, not only do I think you need to make a decision in relationship to your goals, but I also think you need to make a decision in relationship to your perspective. And I can see it happening all the time. Like you and I are in a group together with people that I like and respect, probably more than anyone else I've ever met. And sometimes sometimes when we don't achieve our goals, people get super down. And I'm like, what are you doing being super down? Like, if you have a goal of like, I want to serve 1 million people, and then you try to achieve that goal from a business perspective, and instead of 1 million, you reach 500,000, and people like, they're super sad and disappointed. And I'm like, what are you doing? You just changed 500,000 lives. Like, who cares? Like, you're getting focused on the wrong thing. And we don't mean to do it. It's just like habitually we get super focused on our goals. And if we don't achieve them, then we like find reasons to be disappointed. And I can honestly tell you that part of my brain is broken. I don't have that anymore. Like, if you know me, you will notice, like, and I'm not perfect. I do all kinds of things that drive people nuts. I do all kinds of things that drive, but the one thing you'll never see me do is complain. That part of my brain has been broken. Because anytime you're complaining, you're not appreciating your current circumstances. And that part of my brain has been broken, and it broke laying in a dorm room at 19 years old.
That's so powerful. Well, I read The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, and there was 4 chapters that I meditated on, and one of them was on gratitude. And I think that had one of the most profound impacts on my life. And it just said, a grateful person expects great things. And, that was the light bulb moment for me. And it was like, oh my gosh, yes, I am just going to be that person that expects everything to be great, to be grateful for absolutely everything, because there is always something you can see. And I know there are, I know there's really hard things to get through, for sure. And I know it's been a long time since I've had to go through a really hard thing, but I will say that even when you're going through something really, really awful, even if you can't in the minute of it see the good in it, you can still see the good around you. And I think that's the point is, one of my best friends, about this time of year, a couple of years ago, her son died, and I had to fly out. Well, I flew out immediately to be with her and to just be with her and her husband as they went through this absolutely awful period in their life. What was incredible was how many people just loved them and were there to support them, and were there to do whatever they needed. They were there for them. And afterwards, you go through this absolutely awful thing. And my friend said to me, she said, I've never felt that much love in my life, and here she was going through something that was absolutely horrific, absolutely horrible. But she felt completely loved and served by the people around her, who were trying to support their family in this situation. And it was a really awful situation. But even she was looking in this situation at the feelings that she had around her, the people that she had around her that were there to support her. She knew she was supported. And I think that made a huge difference in processing that event, as hard as it was.
Right. And the two things are not mutually exclusive. I'm not saying, like, just because you've had a difficult loss, just enjoy that people love, but you can both be in grief and experience love. Like, the two things can happen simultaneously. And I would say the same thing to our colleagues. Like, you can be disappointed and also incredibly grateful for the situation that we find ourselves in. Because I think, like, we think life is like a staircase. So, like, if I reach 100,000 people with my message this week, next month when I do it again, I should expect to reach 200,000. And then next month when I do it again, I should expect to reach 300,000. And the following month, but that's not how life works. Like life, 1 week is 100,000, and then the next time you do it is 55,000. Then the next time you do it is 457,000. Then next, you know what I mean? Like, that's how life moves. I can't even tell you how happy I am to be on the elevator. I couldn't care less what floor I'm on. Like, I'm just so happy that I'm on the elevator. And I recognize sometimes it goes up to the penthouse and sometimes in the basement, but I'm so fucking happy that I'm on the elevator that I have lost my ability to be sad about what floor I'm on. It just, my brain can't do it.
Yeah, but that's the subconscious reprogramming, right? It's when you are constantly looking for the good that eventually that's the neural pathway that takes over. And that's what we talk about with brain priming and in neurocoaching, where you take you look at the automatic negative thoughts that are coming up for you and around whatever the situation is. And then you refute those thoughts, you reframe them. So you rework them with brain-based evidence to say, hey, look, this is not true. These ants are not true. And then you record it, you listen to it first thing in the morning, last thing at night, anytime you hit a little bit of a funky moment during the day. But that rewrites the subconscious, it rewrites the neural pathway so that that becomes the default. And that's the key part of the neurocoaching element, where you are really rewiring the subconscious based on brain-based evidence that then puts you into a situation where you just don't have those ants anymore. You'll have new ants that pop up as we do, new automatic negative thoughts as we work through things. But the more you do this and the more you train your brain, and it is brain exercises, right? It's basically a workout for your brain. You're telling it, this is the way that I naturally respond to the situation. Like this is, like you said, I'm on the elevator. I don't care what floor I'm on. I'm just so grateful to be on the elevator.
I'm so happy to be in the building. I'm so happy to be like, I am in the Empire State Building. I've lost my ability to care what floor I'm on. That went away when I was 19.
So it went away for you in a single moment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it went away. I remember, honestly, like, Joy, I know it sounds crazy, but I can remember laying in my dorm room. This is honest to God truth. Like, I don't know how to be me without being me. So I was 19 and I had decided to kill myself. And I was laying in my dorm room thinking about the day after I died. And I thought all my friends would say how sad Elliott died because of his problems. And for some reason, I experienced that as intolerable because I wanted them to say Elliott died because his dad was an asshole. Like, that's what I wanted them to say. But I was laying in my dorm room that day thinking about the day after my death, and I thought everyone will think I was sad. Everyone will think I was weak. Everyone will think I was depressed. Everyone will think it was a problem with me. And I didn't want them to think that. So I thought the only way I can change the narrative is to live the narrative. So laying in my dorm room that day, I thought, if I'm going to be happy, I have to figure out a way to attend to more happy things in my life. So I laid in that dorm room and I thought, and this was probably the most powerful thought I ever had in my life. This is probably the thought that legit saved my life. I'm not joking when I say that. And I'm not making this up a bit. Like, I was laying in Fort Worth, Texas at Texas Western University in my dorm room thinking about the day after I died. And I thought I gotta change the narrative. The only way to change the narrative is to live the narrative. And I was laying in in that dorm room and I was thinking, I got to learn how to focus on things that are happy. First thought I had, in spite of my childhood, I am in college. Can't really explain how that happened. And I'm so lucky because a lot of people with my story didn't get into college, but I am in college right now as we speak. I am laying in a dorm room on a college campus, which means I have the chance of getting a degree. If I stay in this college and I do enough of the things the professors asked me to do, I will get a degree. And I should be happy about that. It doesn't matter if every single day up until this moment was horrible. I still should be happy about the fact that I am in college with a reasonable opportunity of getting a degree. And then I thought about food in the cafeteria. I thought about girls on the college campus that, look, I have never been a ladies' man, so let's just get that out of the way. But I thought there are girls on this campus that if I can stoke up the courage, I might be able to ask on a date one day, and one of them might say yes. Like, I would have thoughts like that. And that to me was pretty cool. I might ask 100 girls on a date, and 99 of them would say no. But I might find the one that would say yes to me, and that seemed cool to me. Like, I was like, that's a cool thing that I'm on a college campus surrounded by all these college girls. I thought it was really cool that every single day everyone would go to sleep. So to this day, I'm a night owl. And I thought every single day, everyone would go to sleep in the dorm and I could like reflect on my day positively without being interrupted because everybody else would be asleep. So I didn't write anything down, but I literally was just in my brain and I turned it into an exercise. I turned it into an exercise that I'm going to like walk through my day and see how many positive things I could notice and attend to. And it made me excited for little things. Like there were some days where me and my friends would go play basketball and I'd be in the middle of like psychology class thinking, oh, this is so boring. I hate it. But then my brain would kick in and be like, yeah, but tonight at 6:00, you get to go play basketball all night with your buddies. Like a lot of people don't get to play basketball with their buddies and I get to play basketball with my buddies. And so all of these things began to take over and it became an exercise for me, for sure. But it happened in a moment when I had that thought, like I am in college, which means I might get a degree if I keep that happening. And that was like world changing to me.
And actually I've heard that has happened to other people. I've heard that situation happen to other people when it gets to that dire, where you're at that position where you really are making that decision. Do I stay or do I go? And different people make different decisions in that situation. You made the decision to be happy, and to find the happiness in things. It doesn't always happen for people that they make that decision and then boom, it changes for them. How do you work with people to help them make that switch if they haven't quite made that switch yet?
Because I actually think it does happen to people in that decision, right? So let's say you happen to be in one of my 3 favorite places in the world. You're in England. I love England. And because of this stupid pandemic, I miss it terribly, right? So let's say I decide I'm going to walk to England. Like I've just made the decision right now. For those of you who don't know, I'm in Dallas, Texas. So walking to England would be extraordinarily difficult. But you know what, Joy? I love England. I miss England. 2 of my friends, you and Kathy, are out in England. So I've decided I'm going to walk to England. Once I make that decision, I am already on my way to England. Now, that doesn't say it's an easy journey. It'll rain while I'm walking there. It'll be hot while I'm walking there. I'll be tired while I'm walking there.
You might have to swim at one point while you're walking there.
I will come to a body of water and I'll have to figure out a way to keep the journey going. But once I make the decision, I'm on my way to England. So once I made the decision laying in my dorm room, I was on my way to happy. It was hard work. Like I will not lie and say it wasn't hard work. There were absolutely days where I would go and something bad would happen and I would fall back into old thinking. And I'd be like, wait. No. Hold on, Elliott, wait. Something bad happened. You failed the test, but you failed the test in college. So you're still in college. So snap yourself out of it and be happy that you're in college and you still get the opportunity to go make up you know what I mean? Like, so bad things happened and I had to fight the old thoughts, but I would sit with myself and maybe you call it prayer, meditation. I don't know, but I honestly remember waiting for people to go to sleep so I could sit in the dorm room and just reflect. And in those moments I would say, wait, Elliott, check yourself. You do not like the grade you just got. And sometimes I had to go and like drop out of certain classes and enroll in other classes, but I was still in, like, the fundamental truth was I was still in the building. So who cares what floor you're on? And a lot of my friends were like, I want to graduate by the time I'm 22. I could care less about that stuff. Like my friends were like, I want to graduate in 3 years. I'm like, what are you hurrying for? Like, just get through this moment. And that's all I really care about.
The key element here is the decision. And that's the snap point where people go from deciding to be one way to deciding to be another way.
Right. Once you decide to be different, you're not there yet, but you are you have changed the direction of your life. The moment you decide to be different. And as a psychotherapist, I do this with people who struggle with addictions. Like I often would talk to people who have like a crystal methamphetamine addiction, a heroin addiction, and they'll tell me they want to be sober. Well, the moment you decide to be sober, you're now changing the direction of your life. It'll be hard. It'll be lengthy. It'll be all those things, but you've changed the direction of your life.
But what about the person who does say, I have decided I'm going to be sober, and then they relapse? How do you work with that?
because relapse is a part of the journey. Like there's no possible way. That's kind of like goes back to like the business world we operate in. You are going to have bad months. Like that is just a guarantee. As you and I are recording this right now, we're live on YouTube because Mark Zuckerberg, who is a multi-billionaire, is having a really bad day. Right? You are going to have bad days. That dude is probably losing $1 billion an hour. Right. Yeah. Like however long the internet is against him and you know the all the apps that Facebook is in charge of are down. Think how much ad revenue Mark Zuckerberg is losing per minute. It's probably in the millions. He is not having a good day, but we are all guaranteed to have bad days. It is a guarantee. But at least his bad day is while running Facebook, as opposed to your bad day is living under a bridge in LA. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, you're gonna have bad days. It's just part of the journey. It's just part of the deal. Well,
that's interesting because when I used to teach kind of blogging, which is sort of a dying art these days. But when I used to teach blogging, I used to say, when you're looking at your stats, you want your highs to get higher and you want your lows to get higher. So, right. You know, you're never going to go, you're not, like you were saying, you're never going to go from 100,000 to 200,000 to 300,000 views. You're going to have this 100,000, 50,000, 200,000. You're going to have this up and down, but the goal is that you're moving in the right direction. And I really love that. So it's about making the decision, but then also taking action. And I think,
but think about that. Like for all of your women that are doing like YouTube channels, for example, let me tell you the biggest mistake people make when they do YouTube channels. So here I am, like my name is Jennifer Jones, and I want to have a YouTube channel.
I actually have a really good friend named Jennifer Jones.
Are you serious?
Yeah, she probably has a YouTube channel now.
Well, we're going to pick on your really good friend named Jennifer Jones. Let's say my name is Jennifer Jones and I have a YouTube channel, and my YouTube channel is about, if you tell me your friend does this, I'm going to freak out. But let's say I'm Jennifer Jones and my YouTube channel is about gardening, about growing plants.
She doesn't do gardening.
So here's the biggest mistake that people make when they have a YouTube channel. So they make a video of them growing a plant, like it's video number 1, and they upload it on the YouTube channel, and 8 people view it. And they're like, oh, and they're discouraged because they thought I was going to put my first video up and I'd have 1.5 million views by the end of the day. So they put their first video up and it got 8 views in like 48 hours. They become discouraged and less likely to do video number 2, right? That's the biggest mistake people make. My YouTube channel grew exactly what you were saying. The highs got higher over time, and the lows got higher over time. And then I made a video so I would post a video per week on my website. And I've been doing that since 2016. My 1,004th video was noticed by someone in Hollywood. And it has completely changed my life. Like I just got a 6-figure multi-book deal. I have the biggest literary agent in the field. And I'm in development for a TV show that's like going to happen because my 1,004th video was noticed by someone in Hollywood. So can you imagine when I made my first video and it got 8 views, imagine if I went, oh, this isn't working, and I stopped doing it. I wouldn't have got to video number 1,004, which is like changing my life. Like I'm going out to California for a meeting, which, as you know, Joy, I'm going out to California for a meeting like later this week. The people that I'm developing a TV show with were like, oh, you're going to be in California. Let's meet in person. I'm like, cool. And they are scheduling meetings at like the Beverly Hills Hotel. I'm like, what world do I live in now where I'm having dinner at the Beverly Hills Hotel? But one of the reasons that's happening is because I didn't quit on video 1 when it had 8 views. And I was able to make 1,003 more videos until the 1,004th video got noticed by someone who has some level of influence.
Also, though, now, and I could be wrong, but you had decided to be really open about your life in that 1,004th video. That was a bit of a process for you. Just let me give you a little bit of a history of what we do at TechPixies. I often talk about the one superpower we all have, which is the invisibility cloak. And we have to be brave enough to take the invisibility cloak off. And the mission that we have has to be greater than our voice or our fear of putting ourselves out there, right? So our mission for the world has to be greater than the fear we have of putting ourselves out there. And so that's why I say you take off the invisibility cloak. So can we just touch on that? Because I know you don't have to go into all the details, but I sat in on a call where you were just trying to decide whether or not you did really open up and tell that story. And so that was a huge change for you to really come out of being the professional and come into being the person in that sense. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it was an interesting process for me because I started off just teaching people how to do psychotherapy. And over time, I've shared that story in bits and pieces all over the place. But then I realized I want to have a greater impact. I want to do more things. And it wasn't so much about finding the strength to tell the story. It was more about finding out how to tell the story. And like I said, I've told it because I'm not ashamed of it. Like I told you guys, give your pain a purpose, and it instantaneously changes from pain to passion. So I had that happen long ago, but I just thought, would people want to hear this? And I got a resounding message from people saying, yes, Ellie, they would want to hear it. And then so this would be a good thing to do because I'm happy to do it. And then I did the video and life changed in ways that I'm to this day have a hard time processing.
Well, and that's just the start, I think that's what's exciting and that's the thing you don't know where it's going to lead to. But what's really important though, if you think back to, it sort of reminds me of Thomas Edison, because I think he had about 1,000 tries before it finally worked. And when someone asked him, well, what do you think about the 1,000 times it failed? And he said, well, no, I learned 1,000 things, and that's that point. He
said, I learned 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb.
There you go. 1,000 ways not to make a light bulb. I love that. Yeah. And so so when you started on your very first video, what was the thing you wanted to do? What was your long-term ambition and goal?
So I don't know if I had a long-term ambitious goal, actually. I wanted to be an action taker. So that's what I wanted. And I heard you say that before, take action. I wanted to be an action taker. So I had spoken to a friend of mine, a guy named Bill, and I was talking to Bill about I don't want to blog. I'm dyslexic. So writing is a process for me. And I thought I was better on video. And I was just talking to Bill about what I wanted to do. And Bill said, it'd be really cool if you had something like Moments with Elliott or SFBT Moments. I was like, Bill, that's it. We're going to call it SFBT Moments. That night, I went to the gym and I took my cell phone and I propped it up on the bike, right in front of my face. Here, let me raise it like this. And I was riding the bike and I just said whatever it was I said. Probably about 3 or 4 minutes of crap. The lighting was terrible. The audio was terrible. I'm wearing a sleeveless workout shirt, but it was video number 1. And the most important thing you can do is video number 1. And the second
most important thing you can do is video number 2.
That's right. And I told you the biggest mistake people make is they put up their first video, it gets 18 views, and they get discouraged. The second mistake that people make is they don't even put up video number 1 because they're so busy trying to make it perfect. And if you go, it's still on my YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube channel and you go to SFBT Moments and you find episode number 1, you'll see it. It's still there. It has 1,000 views and it's crap. It is terrible. But it led to video number 2, which led to video number 3, which led to video number 1,004. So you can't get to video 1,004 if you don't get to video 2. So you got to get to video 2. It's just, you got to be an action taker.
That is, obviously I think the decision to start doing video is like, if we're talking about decisions as the first step, I'm going to do video. That's what I'm going to do. And then the second thing is to actually do the video, take the action. I'm a huge fan of that, take the action. And then, if something comes up that stops you from taking the action, that's when you sort of have to sit back and go, okay, what's causing me to stop doing that? And, I'm doing a Quantum Leap series, and we're talking about, activating your heart. What would you love? What's the point of doing this thing that you want to do? How is it going to impact you or the people around you? What would you love to have happen? But then once you've decided what you love, then yes, let's take action. Let's go do the video. I mean, on our superhero boot camps, we used to, on our second homework, it was do a live video in the Facebook group, just to get people to see that they can do something they've never done before and not die. And that will actually give them confidence that they can do it again and have courage to do it again. So, that's what we used to do. And then the third thing is activate the mind. So when you do hit a block, you kind of sit there and go, okay, let's just reflect on this. Why am I having this block? And what's true or not true about this thing that's stopping me? And I find people, when it comes to video, they sort of have a couple responses. One is no one's going to like it, or no one's going to watch it, or everyone's going to watch it and everyone's going to hate it. Or, there's this cognitive bias that everyone's out there thinking about me when actually everyone's out there thinking about themselves. But it's this kind of it's this act that you believe that what you are going to do is going to, it's a possible thing in the world that could be very good. It's like, I believe that this thing I'm going to do is going to make the world a better place. I'm going to take action towards that in faith that that's the truth, that what I say is going to impact people. And there's so many different ways to impact people and make an impression. But I think that going way, way, way back to what you were saying, it's the decision. Like, I am going to make the decision to go on video, and I'm going to take that action to actually do it. And then see what happens.
That's right. And you really can't be driven by external factors. Like, I'm doing this to get views. I'm doing this to get money. I'm doing this to get noticed. You have to be doing it because it's important to you to put it out into the world. Because if you're motivated by external factors, when those external factors don't come, then you lose your motivation. But I began doing my videos because I wanted these videos out into the world. Now, what happened once they went out into the world is a separate conversation. But what made me want to do these videos is I wanted this message out into the world. I wanted to live in a world where this message was out. I am the holder of this story, so I am the only one who could get this message out into the world. So thus I started creating content. When you attach those external rewards to your own mission, you're going to fail, because once those things don't come, and as we just said, they don't always come. You might get them on video 1 and you don't get them again until video number 130. Like, you have no idea. I know people who have gone super viral and have driven themselves nuts trying to replicate it. But you just have to live in a world where it's like, I'm going to make this content to put it out into the world. And what happens when it's out in the world is what happens. But I'm making this content because I want to put it out in the world.
Well, so Kathy started our series on YouTube, and she, of course, has nearly 200,000 subscribers to her channel. But when we talked to her, she said, I created the membership that I wanted that didn't exist, right? I created the videos that I wanted to see that didn't exist. And I think that's a good rule of thumb when you're getting onto YouTube. Well, Elliott, I want to say thank you so much for your time tonight. We've covered a lot of subjects. We've gone through trauma. We've talked about positive psychology. We've also talked about YouTube, and there's so many golden nuggets in here. But I want to seriously thank you for your time this evening. Yes. And we had to navigate the Facebook Live being down. We found ourselves onto YouTube through Zoom, but we are here and we made it. And I just want to appreciate you for being here, and thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me. I look forward to seeing you next week, this week, later, whenever it is.
Yeah, later this week.
Later this week.
All right. Thanks, Elliott.
Okay, bye-bye.